And that's not to say that like I was born to make a story about a supermarket tabloid. Like I never read the Enquirer growing up. I never cared about supermarket tabloids. I thought it was a joke.
I was listening to an interview with John Pilger, he's a journalist, and someone in the audience yelled out at a Q&A, there's this issue, and went on and on. What are you doing about it? Because he covers various issues in his films. And he said, well, why do I have to be the poster child of having to do something about it? We can all do something about it nowadays. How do you feel about that? Because it used to be a select group that would be able to spotlight these stories and go and delve in. And now all of that's anyone sort of with their own agenda or their own need to tell a story, and a camera or a phone can do that. What are your thoughts?
I think ultimately what I'm getting from the question is kind of a larger issue about like the ability to get stories out there, right? I mean, we all have Twitter, right? Twitter's a storytelling device in X number of characters or less. All of these apps are newfangled stories, and we're all kind of technically our own little filmmaker. I don't think that's the same as making a film. There's a responsibility in making a film. If you're making a film about something that's true, if you're making a film about something that's about real life, or if you're even making a scripted film about something that's historical fiction, you have a responsibility as the filmmakers to do justice to that story. Otherwise, you're going to slip into the propaganda universe and just be filling the world with more of that. And I think filmmakers are bold, and they're on the frontier, they're truth seekers. I think that's true of even the best scripted filmmakers, I mean, I think back to Boys Don't Cry, and what Kimberly Pierce did, That was an incredibly powerful, eye-opening experience that the world hadn't seen before. And she did tremendous justice to that. I think I like that your site is called Film Courage, because that's the kind of courage that it takes to be a filmmaker. You have to be willing to really tell the truth and not be sort of just agenda pushing all day long. Because people see right through that. And by the way, it's, unless you're the president of the United States who's agenda pushing all day long, you're most likely kind of in your own little echo chamber.
And you have to be prepared to take the punches that are going to come online or in written form from people that have various agendas, whether they really didn't like the film or they're a paid troll, which is something that I guess has been around for ages, but now we have a real name for it.
Yeah.
And there's just all sorts of people in the peanut gallery that have an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing that's so great about filmmaking period right now is we all have access to these tools that we didn't have before. You can have a phenomenal camera in your hand. You can have a phenomenal editing device on your laptop. When I started out, it's like you couldn't do that. No, you had to go and wait by the AV cage in your high school or in your college and hope you got a camera. Then you had to take a camera out and you had to put film in the camera when I started. You know what I mean? And then, film became these tapes that we lugged around. I mean, we have, kids can make films these days. So it's an incredible time to be a filmmaker. And now the question really is, okay, so what are you going to make a film about?
When you feel that someone's got to make a film about this story, why do you feel you need to answer the call?
I think it's a very personal thing. It's very subjective. For me, I'll be listening to public radio, for example, or I'll be reading an article, and I'll get a feeling. I'll get a hit. Sometimes that hit will be outrage. Sometimes it'll be compassion, sadness, humor. It'll hit me on an emotional level. And then I'll have a thought, is this a story that could be a film? And then the next thought is, okay, so if this is a story that could be a film, is this a story that I should tell, that I'm able to tell, or I'm interested in telling? And then it kind of just goes from there. I think that there's a lot of important questions we have to ask ourselves. A very wise friend of mine, a fellow filmmaker, once said to me, there's basically three basic questions. Why this story? Why now? Why you? And you ask yourself those 3 questions, and then it kind of helps you, like, it gives you a little bit of a GPS. Oh, by the way, I'll say, like, and that's not to say that, like, I was born to make a story about a supermarket tabloid. Like, I never read the Enquirer growing up. I never cared about supermarket tabloids. I thought it was a joke, to be honest with you. The other sort of important thing about documentaries is access. So this story found me in a way because a parent of one of our dear friends was in town, and we all went out and had drinks, and he starts rattling off these crazy stories about his former life as a tabloid reporter for the National Enquirer, and I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. I could listen to this guy all day long. So I knew I had a window into that world. Before that dinner, I had no idea. I didn't know I knew anyone at the Enquirer. So I think access is a huge part of filmmaking, documentary filmmaking. It's one thing to have a great idea, but I think how you get into that idea, that's a huge part of it. And that can make your life easier as a documentarian.
So leaving that family event or that dinner event, whatever, at what point did you start thinking in your mind, I have to tell this story?
I'd say about, we had that dinner. He told us all these crazy stories about espionage and recording people in disguises and booking hotel rooms next to Madonna and Sean Penn and just crazy stuff. And I thought, okay, this is an incredible movie. And then at the same time, Jeffrey Toobin wrote an article in the New Yorker about the relationship between Donald Trump and David Pecker in the National Enquirer. And that's when it started to percolate, oh, this is actually a bigger film, And so that's when I called my friend's father and I said, hey, do you think you could get other of your former colleagues to talk on camera about their experiences as Enquirer reporters? And he said, well, let me work on it. And that process took many months, and some people refused my phone calls, some people slammed the phone down on us, some people said, I'll consider it, and never got back. Some people said, I'd love to, but I have a non-disclosure agreement and I'm not gonna violate that because I don't want to get sued. They were scared. But enough of them said, why not? I'll do it. I don't have a contract anymore. I don't have an NDA. This is a story that should be told. Let's do it. And that's when we knew we had a film. And with all that information, with that access, that's when we went to the folks at CNN Films and said, hey, we have something here.
And during those many months that sort of all this was coming together and you were getting yeses, nos, maybes, were you also going to the supermarket and watching people interact with the paper?
Absolutely. I mean, that happened before that. So starting in late 2015, 2016, as the campaign was ramping up, I would have these very bizarre sensations in the supermarket line looking at the tabloid headlines, because there were these really weird stories about Hillary Clinton going to jail, she's hooked on narcotics, she has 6 months to live. Apparently every week she had 6 months to live. And then, all these glowing stories about Donald Trump and how he's gonna make America great again and yada, yada, yada. And it was like, this is crazy. This is the National Enquirer, and I feel like I'm looking at a political poster in my face, with my cereal in line at the grocery store. So I just started to feel like this is crazy. And then you start reading reports in other places about this kind of, these strange bedfellows between the Trump campaign and AMI and David Pecker. And that's when it all started to kind of pique enough curiosity to make us pursue a film.